are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Germantown Municipal School District's Spotlight on Excellence. I'm your Superintendent, Jason Manuel. Today, we would like to talk about our exciting new one-to-one technology initiative. We, like many other public school systems across the United States, are moving to a more technology-rich classroom environment. Here to join me in this discussion is the district's Communications and Instructional Technology Coordinator, Mason Grace. Welcome to the show, Mason.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here for my favorite subject.
One-to-one.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the biggest challenges being a teacher, and I taught biology for years at Houston High School, is staying current so that the analogies that you use and the way that you're trying to teach students really reaches them at a personal level. And I remember early on when I was teaching, it was about 5 years into my career, I was talking to my students about a movie, and I was talking about, it's like that scene in that movie, Weird Science. And then I looked around the classroom and there wasn't a single student who knew what the movie Weird Science was, and so I lost my connection to the students. So for us, I think it's always a challenge to stay current and reach students where they are. How do you think this one-to-one initiative really reaches students where they are, and what is a one-to-one initiative?
Well, one-to-one, you hear that a lot. It's happening all over the world, and it really means that it's a ratio. You have one computer for every student. So pretty much every student has a computer in front of them. We want to really refer to our initiative more as a blended learning environment, because we don't want to give the idea that we're going paperless right now. Mm-hmm. We're not getting rid of textbooks, or they don't need to bring pens or pencils to school anymore. Our teachers, they're very successful. They have great lessons, and they've been successful for a long time, and we don't want to mess that up. We just want to continue those successful lessons they're already doing, but start incorporating some technology that really enhances the lesson, bring some of those digital tools in that'll just make those lessons even better. So
your ratio of one-to-one, so it's one device for every student. Are we talking iPads, laptops, cell phones? What does it look like in Germantown?
Well, we're actually going to be doing MacBook Airs. That's what we're currently doing. It's a 13-inch MacBook Air laptop.
So why laptops? Why not use a cell phone or some other device?
We looked at many different models. We looked at having like a BYOD where they can bring their own devices and whatever they want to bring. We looked at maybe having some different models that they can choose from. And we looked at different, even when you're looking at just one machine, we looked at which machines we would use. We know the most important thing that we found was that we need to use one machine and stick with that machine. Like I said, teachers have been successful for a long time. They've been teaching one way for years and years, their whole career basically. And we're changing culture. We are making them, not really making them, but we're introducing something that they've never used before. And if we add the frustrations of making technology a distraction, meaning that if this student over here has one device and this student has another and then this student has a phone, so when they're planning the lesson at home and they're so excited about this lesson that they've got this online product that they're going to introduce to the students, and they come in and it doesn't work on this device but it works on this one, and this one's saying their flash is out of date, well then your instruction's over. And so we really want the whole lesson to be as solid and fluid as possible without any distractions. We know that's what's going to make it successful. The teachers have to come in there and they have to see it. They have to be able to feel comfortable with it too. And we didn't want to we didn't put any extra stress on them by giving them many devices to have to work with.
And is there also a cost component to that? So if we do have these devices in the school, does it require extra personnel, extra staff to?
It would. I mean, you think about that. you would probably have to have some IT staff available all the time to be able to go into a room and troubleshoot. So if you have a teacher who can't get this person working, they can't just stop instruction and go over there and help that person. So you would have to have a lot more IT staff to be running around and help troubleshoot why these issues aren't working to get the classroom going smoothly.
So more platforms means more staff, which would mean more time away from actually teaching the lesson.
Right. And,
So-
and the purpose of this is not to take anything away from instruction, but to make it better.
So besides improving instruction and really reaching students with a form of learning that they're accustomed to, how do you think this prepares them for the future?
Well, you know, our students, they live in a world that we didn't grow up in. I mean, even when we were children, it's so much different now. I think it changes so quickly now. Think about our grandparents and how they grew up. You know, I think about phones themselves. You know, like you think about the phone you had or my grandparents had at their house. You know, they had one phone that was on a big long cord. You know, like you had to wait on that important phone call. Nobody could get on the phone if they were waiting on an important phone call, or you'd fight over the phone. You know, now everyone has their own personal device. And not only is the phone itself different, but how we communicate is different. You know, now we text. You know, I'll probably text more than I call somebody on the phone. Think about social media and how that's changed the world. You know, there's a slide that, you know, I want to pull up, and you can see the difference in a year in social media. And if you look at Facebook alone and you look at the posts, the difference in 1 year to another, it's amazing how quickly it's changing. We had something last year called the Hour Code, and everybody participated across the country, and all 5 schools participated in it, where somebody, you know, students at the school were actually learning how to code. Our students were actually learning how to build Angry Bird levels, and some would advance faster than others. When you master one, you move on to the next level, and it was really neat seeing them get a little higher than the other one, and then they would help their students or help their classmates, and you could see the excitement in their face. And you looked at that and thought, you know, that's what the classroom should look like. But in reality, our classroom really looks no different than it did back in the 1950s. You know, it's still the same classroom setup. We have to change that. We have to prepare the students for the future, like prepare them for their future. You know, there's a futurist, Tom Fry, who says that we're preparing for these students for jobs of the past. How can we say that we're really preparing them for their future when we know that everything they do now and everything they do later is going to be technology, going to have technology-rich environment, going to have these resources.
So jobs of the future. So what are we talking about? So we're preparing them for jobs that don't exist.
Yeah.
Give some examples. What are some of those jobs that?
Well, you know, Tom Fry, he and many other people say that 60% of the jobs 10 years from now haven't even been existed yet.
So an example.
And he goes on and lists several. He talks about, and I had to write a couple down, but he talked about augmented reality architect. He talked about an avatar design. You've seen the movie Avatar, but just avatar is just a digital image of a person. Social media specialist. And that's actually something that there's a lot of companies right now that are hiring people to manage their social media, just to watch their social media sites, and that's a good way to help with marketing too. Book to app converters was another one. 3D printing designs. You know, we did a show last year on 3D printing, talked about that. So there'll be a job in the future about 3D printing engineers, and then food printing engineers we saw on there.
So we're actually printing food, similar to Star Trek where they would use the hologram machine to make food.
Absolutely, and you know, it's so hard to even grasp the concept that we could print edible food. But you know, I think about the fact that 5 years ago, I never would have dreamed that we could actually print a wrench that would screw a nut into a bolt, but we can. So,
exciting things for our students. When we return, we will be joined by one of our curriculum technology trainers. But before we go to break, Ms. Martin will explain a little more of the importance of this initiative. Please stay with us.
This year has been incredible so far. It's been my favorite year of any of the years I've taught. This is my 7th year. It's been the smoothest transition I've ever experienced because of the way that this this software and this one-to-one allows me the tools I need to do whatever I want in the classroom. When you don't have the computers, you don't have all the resources that you need. Because in reality, we're in a 21st century world. And when we need to know something, we go to the internet. And these students are learning how to use that internet as a tool to learn. And they see that they're able to figure things out on their own. They're able to solve problems in ways they never had before. They're learning the proper way to do things. They're learning things that are going to be on-the-job skills that they're going to need. They need to know how to create a Microsoft Word document and how to create tables within that document. They need to know how to create a PowerPoint presentation that is professional looking, because one day they might be presenting to, who knows, FedEx. I think that these tools are preparing them for a 21st century world in ways that we've never been able to do before. So I'm so excited to be able to teach in this manner and to be allowed to pilot this program, because it has been incredible and I'm seeing incredible strides in the way the students are learning.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. I am Superintendent Jason Manuel, and we are discussing our one-to-one or blended learning initiative with Mason Grace. And joining us on the show is Chris Cooper, who is one of our curriculum technology trainers. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So it sounds like you have had a little experience with one-to-one. This is your second year in the Germantown School District. And you were in a district that actually had one-to-one in its school for 10 years, is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, so I was in a one-to-one environment for over 10 years. And what I found is that the students were just more engaged because of the technology that was available to them. They were more engaged, I was more engaged. It was more fun for them, more fun for me. I realized that they had more resources at their disposal. And it just allowed me to tailor the curriculum so that the students who might be bored otherwise would be able to sort of get the content as they needed it. It was more collaboration. So it just really kind of made it mirror life, you know, the way that we work and live everyday life. It makes the classroom sort of model that.
Now, the environment you were in, did they all have the same device? Because we were talking earlier about whether we should do a BYOD environment and the challenges that would come with that type of environment. How did it work in your school?
We had Macs and we had Windows, and that was a little bit of a challenge at times. It certainly is easier if you can have a homogeneous environment of machines.
Oh, good. Now, how did it work in the classroom? I think originally when we talked about going to a blended learning environment, we were really thinking about replacing a hard textbook for a computer textbook, but it sounds like this is there's more to it than that. This is involving instruction. Tell me a little bit about your experience as a teacher and how you interacted with the content.
So the great thing about blended learning is that, as Mr. Grace pointed out earlier, it really does take the traditional teaching and give you the tools to add in where necessary. But in order to make that effective, you do need to be intentional about how you're using technology in the classroom. So one of the things that we're doing is that we're helping our teachers be more effective with the technology by introducing a model called the SAMR model. And there's actually 4 levels to the SAMR model. The first, it actually stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. And so the higher you go on the ladder, the more in-depth the learning is. So the very first level is substitution.
Which is where I think I originally thought of a one-to-one environment. I was just thinking the substitution level, textbooks for computers.
Right. And I think that we all tend to sort of fall into that level naturally, because it mimics the way we already do tasks in life or in teaching. So someone just starting out in the classroom with technology is going to be on the substitution level because they're going to find ways to replace what they're already doing with technology. For example, if you want to teach Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, the example of substitution might be that a teacher, instead of giving out a paper worksheet, he or she might email the worksheet or post it online for the students to print out, fill out, and bring to class. So that would be substituting the distribution of that document. But then you get into the next level, which is augmentation. So you can actually start to make that process more effective, more efficient. You might actually show a link to the speech on the
Actually
web.
have a sound bite.
Have a sound bite, something like that. So and that increases the efficiency and the effectiveness and the turnaround time for giving students feedback and all that. So that you augment, but really there's still no functional difference between what you did before and what you're doing now. So you want to try to push up to the next 2 levels. So the 3rd level is actually modification, where you're modifying the functionality of the assignment itself. So with that assignment, you might actually have the students look at videos and start to look at the inflection and the tone of Dr. King's, the way he's delivering the speech. And maybe the students would actually record their own video of themselves delivering that speech. And so you use technology in a way that you really couldn't do before.
And I think the emotional connection would be different. Reading a speech versus hearing it or actually seeing footage has to be much more powerful when you're seeing the real thing versus
yeah. There's definitely a depth of knowledge increase the higher you go on those levels. And in the final level, which is actually redefinition, that's the peak of the depth of knowledge. So in that case, then maybe you have the students actually think of their own social injustice or their own social issue, and they're creating their own speeches and they're recording those and posting them online for students to collaborate all over the nation. So that's sort of when you get to that stage, you're creating, you're doing synthesis, and students are actually thinking sort of in a big picture and how what they're doing is affects society.
Oh, well. Well, I know our school board really saw the value for this one-to-one initiative, and they funded going forward with this program. Why not just roll it out all together at first and go 6 through 12 and all the students have computers? I have a 7th grader at home who's probably like, where's my computer? I'm ready to get mine. How do we get there from here? How do we roll this out?
Well, we know that it isn't the students we have to adapt to technology. It is the teachers, right? It is showing the teachers a different way of approaching a lot of these lessons. Like we said earlier, they've been doing this for a long time, the way they've been doing it. So now we want to change that. We don't want to do this on a large scale. We don't want to say, okay, everybody's changing this year, because it's going to be an uphill battle. We want to make sure we focus on a very small group. When we did a lot of research going into this, everything we heard was, we need to focus on the PD of the teachers, really focus on that. And so we have 20 teachers in this first year's pilot program. We're meeting once or twice a month after school for a couple hours, learning these digital resources, really diving into what's working and what's not, and really making this a meaningful process. So next year, they can go out and they can be the leaders, and they can expand their knowledge to their PLCs, or professional learning communities, can get that out, and then they'll start teaching other people. And then we're going to start actually videoing lessons too that they're doing to show what they're doing and kind of create a class for them as well.
So a true train the trainer model.
Absolutely.
Oh, well, I'm excited to see what the next year holds for our one-to-one initiative. We need to take a short break, but first, here are some teachers participating in this year's pilot. Please stay with us.
Laptops allow students to work at their own pace. Students get immediate feedback, which helps me target what they need to learn or their learning needs. The blended learning model gives me immediate access to tools that I need, such as digital resources, such as manipulatives, practice materials, online games, whiteboards, the chalkboard, which are not digital. So it helps me to better individualize the instruction in order to meet the needs of each student.
One of the great things about my textbook is it has a multifaceted free website where the kids can go on and watch all the videos. So if during class someone needs an intervention on some pronunciation, they can use that website. But also what I love about it, especially with Schoology, is right here, right now, they can send me an audio sample. It's basically a one-on-one, whereas each child is in this room right now is doing something different.
¿De dónde eres, Germantown?
We go back and forth with the recordings, and the part that they love the most is the interaction. Yes, they're sitting next to each other, but there's something very exciting about watching your friends speak in Spanish on the internet in real time right now.
You are watching Germantown Municipal Television, your source for everything Germantown.
Welcome back. We've been discussing our blended learning program with Mason Grace and Chris Cooper. So we were talking about how we're going to roll out the one-to-one initiative, and we were starting with the train the trainer model, really leveraging a group of teacher leaders to become experts in blending this learning environment. What are the next steps?
Well, I said earlier that we talked about talking with a lot of people, and a lot of them said that focus on the PD, and a lot of them said they thought they went too big too fast. So we wanted to kind of start with a small group. So this year we started with 8th graders, five eighth grade teachers at Riverdale, 5 at Houston Middle. They actually have carts of laptops in their room. They're stationary, they stay there all the time, and the students will rotate from class to class and if that teacher has laptops, and they'll use the laptops.
So they don't actually take them home in the evenings?
Correct. And we all have Office 365 as our email and our OneDrive. So anything they do, they have online Word, they have online PowerPoint, but even if they use the desktop products, they can save it inside their OneDrive. And when they go to the next class, open up OneDrive and it's there. So they don't really have to carry the computers around, it's all there. We also have about 100 students at the high school, 50 ninth graders, 50 10th graders, and they're in cohorts of 25. And what they do is they do carry their computers home. They're assigned laptops, and they actually they all go to the same 3 core subjects together. So the same math class, same science, and same language arts. And so they have their computer with them all the time. They'll take it home. They'll be able to do homework on the bus home or in the car ride home. If they go to a game to see at night, they might take it with them to kind of work on stuff before and after. And then next year, our plan is, so this year would be 8th, 9th, and 10th. So next year we plan to transition into where all 8th and 9th graders are carrying them home. So we'll expand this from these 20 teachers and these 350 students, we'll say something like that, to more of almost 1,000 students, but it's all 8th and 9th graders.
Wow.
And so the year after that, we're looking at 7th through 10th grade, and then by the 4th year, will be 6th through 12. Everyone will be carrying their computers home with them.
This sounds like a big investment for the district. Since our board has decided to invest this money into this program and really see value in this program, I think the concern is, do the effort and the money that we're putting into it, how are we sure that we're going to get the results that we desire? Obviously, we're not the first ones to do that, Mr. Cooper, because you were working in a district that did have one-to-one. What are their results? Have we looked to other districts to try to emulate what they have done in their initiatives? We did, and part of our research last year was we went and visited some districts. Some of the board members came, and we actually went and looked at Huntsville, Alabama, and we looked at Tullahoma. And in Huntsville, they do a whole program. They're pretty much K through 12, one-to-one in Huntsville. Great thing going on there. But they start off with showing their data and what they've done. And they have increased in almost every subject since they've been doing this. They said that their discipline has gone down 60%. And the principals say that's because the students are more engaged in the lessons. So it's actually brought down discipline. Tullahoma that we visited, very interesting. We were, a great thing happened not too long ago. We got a letter from the state saying that we had the highest ACT average of all the districts in the state. Included in that letter, it said Tullahoma had the highest gain on ACTs than anyone in the state. And I called Tullahoma and talked to them, and they said that they definitely believe that it has a lot to do with their one-to-one environment, their digital textbooks, and their being able to have a more engaged learner. Oh, wow. So how do you think this one-to-one environment grows students? Obviously, we've seen districts that have been successful with it. How does it help an individual student? How does it really personalize that learning experience for that student? I'll let Chris talk about this a little bit, but one thing we're adding on to this is a learning management system. It's Schoology is what we're learning, and that's one of the things we do in our professional development with the teachers. And it is really bringing it to more a personalized instruction. We actually interviewed some students, and hearing that student talk was pretty amazing. They said that now, or before, there's some topics that she might be listening to it in class, and she just doesn't quite get it. She's a little behind.
and she really she feels like she's not quite there yet. And then there's other lessons that she gets it, she is ready to go, ready to move on, but some other students don't. And then she's kind of bored because she's waiting for everyone else to get it when she's ready to move on. And she said now she's got this almost where she can pace herself with her lessons. She can move ahead if she's ready to go, or she can watch the video, watch the lessons a few more times,
and go in
research
deeper.
a little more and go in deeper. So it really becomes a more personalized approach to instruction. The way a really effective teacher can do it is they teach a lesson, and he'll talk more about Schoology, like I said, but they'll teach a lesson, then they can go in and look at some extra material, see the links to go give them more help on the subject, and then do some practice, and then take quizzes. And then while the teacher can go help those individual students that are really struggling in those areas, the other ones can move on a little faster.
You mentioned the pace and how Schoology helps students with the pace. In the traditional classroom, the pace is regulated by the teacher. The teacher is delivering the information. And so the student who likes to move forward quickly is waiting. The student who maybe is struggling is trying to catch up. Well, with Schoology, it's a whole different type of delivery. The teacher puts all the content in Schoology, and it looks, from the surface, it looks a little bit like a social network website. It looks kind of like Facebook. So it's something familiar to the students. But it's all geared around the classroom and the content. So students can get what they need. And so teachers are able to put the content online and then just sort of step back and facilitate the student learning where, as each student needs whatever they need. So it's great because the students have more control over whatever pace that they need to get the information.
Oh, wow. So today we're using Schoology in our classes, even if they're not in a one-to-one environment, students have access, or is it just for the one-to-one students?
It's for the one-to-one students, but there is a free version out there, and a lot of teachers are actually using it outside the one-to-one environment. We have a principal at Riverdale who's actually using Schoology as a flipped faculty meeting. So he's putting the notes and the videos to watch out there so the teachers can go watch that. So it's pretty interesting.
Well, I'm excited to see what one-to-one is going to do for Germantown schools. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
That wraps up today's show, and thank you for watching. Be sure to join us next month when we show what great things are happening in our Honors Academy program. If you want to find out more information on this show and others, please visit our website at www.gmtvonline.org. Thanks for joining us on this month's edition of Spotlight on Excellence. See you next time.